What is going on, everyone? This is Rancer4, and welcome to another review for March the... and I do got my phone this time. March the 26th, 2014. But by the time I upload this video, it may be either Thursday or whatever. And I also have my bottle of water just in case if I have to get a drink. And today's review is going to be Infamous Second Son for the PlayStation 4. It is a PS4 exclusive game. And honestly, this was the game that convinced me to buy a PlayStation 4 early, besides Injustice on PS4 version of Injustice Ultimate Edition. But, and there's quite a lot of things I have to say about Infamous Second Son. So let's get to the review, and let's start off by talking about the plot of the game. The plot of the game is that the game takes place 7 years after the events, after the ending of Infamous 2. And what has happened during the 7 years is that conduits or bioterrorists or whatever have been roaming around, actually living their own lives, stuff until a girl named Augustine actually came along as the new general, who's also a bioterrorist but actually has earned the government's trust, and she has actually kidnapped a lot of these bioterrorists. And it's pretty much become, you could say, a self-destructing Hitler type of leader who pretty much has taken away a lot of people's rights of freedom and speech. And rights anyway. And so now you have a new character now named Delsin, played by Troy Baker, whose new goal is, after suffering through pain from Augustine, the fact that he almost kills Betty, he decides to get his revenge actually on Augustine by simply going after Augustine and taking her concrete powers after he accidentally touched a conduit and has absorbed its powers and has got smoke abilities. And so now he and his brother now have to go to Seattle City to find Augustine and try to stop her from continuing this on, including the DOP soldiers, which is actually the organization and group that she's in charge of. Now, what I find interesting though about the plot of the game is that there's two alternate versions of the story. There's the evil karma side and the good karma side. And this could be completely your choice, and it's all up to you. You can make it either that one, you can become just completely the good guy. Sorry, I almost yawned there. You can make Delsin as completely the good guy, where you pretty much save the city and you protect citizens instead of killing them. Or you could play as just the evil bad guy and go after to kill Augustine and you kill citizens along the way, and you do whatever you want. Depending on what choice you make, completely changes the story completely. I mean, you can be just only like I said, you can only be just the good guy, or you can be just the bad guy completely, but you do have the option to mix it up between the two as you play along. So pretty much, you can play the story in any way you feel like it, and you can play it in each different way you want to do it. It's all basically up to you. And along the way, you also meet two characters in the game that do have a supportive role, pretty much. Well, sort of. And I'll explain why. Later in the review. Which are Eugene and Fetch, actually, who pretty much are supporting characters to help you out along the way, along with Delsin's brother Roy, or Roland, or I completely forgot the name. I'm sorry. I completely forgot the game. The name. I mean, I can't speak. Anyway. So by tagging along with them, Delsin now has to go after Augustine to finish her off for good. And I'm not going to spoil the rest of the game, because that's pretty much what the rest of the game is like. And like I said, you can choose to either do the good side or the bad side of the story. And I know there have been other games in the past that have already done something like this before. However, though, the reason I think Infamous Second Son actually managed to execute that a bit better is simply because that it's not only because that the story completely changes, and even though yes, a lot of the cutscenes are pretty much the same in the game, or pretty much the same with only a few minor differences. The reason Infamous Second Son executes it well is not only because that the story changes depending on what side you do, but depending on which side you do also change the personality of Delsin, the main character himself. You can make him just an anti-hero that just does whatever, a bad boy anti-hero just does whatever the heck he wants, and will kill anyone who gets in his way or anything like that. Or you can make it just a complete Superman type game. And by the way, he makes a Superman reference just to let you know. Anyway, or you can make him just a Superman type of character where he protects the citizens and defeats the DUP and subdues them, and then he can heal some wounded citizens to save them. And again, that makes you a superhero. And again, depending on what choice you make, it not only changes the story, it also changes the personality of Delsin. But it will also impact the other characters around you, and also it will change the interaction between the characters. But like I said, the only complaint that I would have about the story is that a lot of the cutscenes pretty much during the story is pretty much the same, to be completely honest. Though over 80% of them are pretty much the same. The other 20% is that they are similar but only have a couple differences, or some of the dialogue they say is completely different. And that's my only complaint though about the story. But other than that, the story surprisingly is pretty good. It does start off pretty slow, just to let everyone know. It does start off pretty slow. But once you start to get to Seattle City where the action starts to pick up, that's actually when the story starts to get better. And even if you've never played the InFAMOUS series such as myself, if you actually understand a bit of the story in this after playing a couple more times, or pretty much look at the playthroughs or stories of the previous games, then you pretty much will understand the plot of this game pretty good. So that's the story. Graphics in that. What are the graphics in the game? It's pretty simple. This is easily the best looking game on the PlayStation 4, and one of the best visual effect type of games or whatever. It's pretty much in visual wise, it's the best looking game on PlayStation 4 so far. I mean, my God, this game literally takes full advantage of the PlayStation 4's hardware in terms of the special effects. Sorry. But, I mean, seriously, the special effects in this game are ridiculously, so much things going on. Explosions, particles, neon lighting, the details, the detail within Seattle itself, including the puddle of water on the roads, the light, the texture, and everything. Everything goes on so much at the same time that this game pretty much handles it very, very well. And also the fact that, because there are a lot of explosions and everything goes on at the same time, even with thousands and thousands of explosions going at the same time, it's like boom, boom, boom. This game completely handles all that with almost no problem at all. But keep in mind, I said almost. The only small thing about it that does have a tiny gripe toward it is that, one, even though yes, it does handle thousands of explosions at the same time way better than the Wii U can, the problem though, however, is that it does drop a bit of frames though. Not a lot up to the point where it goes below 30 frames. I would say it drops frames up to the point where it goes from 60 to pretty much, I would say 40 frames. But like I said, it still runs pretty smoothly on the game. And if there's one thing I would say that's one minor thing I would criticize is that there is a couple glitches though when it comes to the visuals and stuff. When it comes to the graphics and stuff. There's a couple glitches where you can pretty much get stuck at certain parts, or that maybe some people can just go simply through stairs or maybe buildings or whatever. But it barely happens though. But especially during the gameplay parts, there's some glitches in the game where basically there are parts in that you pretty much get stuck at a certain part and you need to click a button, a combination of buttons just to try to do it. Like, let me just show you for example here. This wasn't during the part that I was doing. I was playing the game and I was going up a wall. It's like, okay. And all of a sudden, I get stuck on that sign because of the camera, and I was like, oh, fuck. And I get completely stuck, and then I have to press this, and then I have to press something, and actually, or a combination of buttons, actually, just to get out of a stuck position I am. I mean, that doesn't happen a lot, but that is a big issue, though. But other than that, the graphics are really outstanding and really is the best looking game on PlayStation 4 easily. Now, in terms of characters and stuff, I mean, you do have, like I said, you have Delsin played by Troy Baker, his brother Roy, or Roland, or, I don't really remember the name, and you also got Fetch and Eugene, and you also got Augustine, including the character Hank, who is one of the characters you meet in the game. Now, I will say this though. The relationship between Delson and his brother can be, again, depending on either you do the good or, and I saw that saying again, depending if you go with either the good or the bad side, actually, the interaction between these two characters is different. However, you do understand the relationship between the two because, one, Delson is pretty much the bad boy or the criminal while his brother is a police cop. And even though, yes, they do have their differences, they still love each other. So the relationship between the two is pretty understandable. And at the same time, you do feel some moments where, even though despite the fact that they completely hate each other at certain things they say, though, they do understand each other and have nice relationships. So, and again, they are pretty memorable characters. Augustine is not that bad of a villain. I wouldn't say one of the best villains in general, but I do think she's not that bad of a villain. Because what I personally like, though, about Augustine is the fact that Augustine pretty much stays calm, yet still acts like a Hitler sort of character. I'm not saying she is like Hitler. The problem is that she does have a backstory, though, to her that does explain why she actually kidnaps bioterrorists anyway to begin with. But again, I'm not going to say it. It's near the end of the game, so I'm not going to spoil too much about it. And I find that the fact that she still acts like a Hitler type of character is kind of interesting in my opinion. Actually, again, she's not one of the best villains, but she is a threat villain because she too is a bioterrorist and really uses her own powers, and yet none of the other people can completely stop her. And anybody who pretty much completely disagrees with her or speaks up against her pretty much will get hurt extremely bad because she uses her concrete powers to kill them slowly with concrete powers. And because that she's gained the government's trust and is in charge of the DOP, she can pretty much do whatever the heck she wants since she has all the power she wants to prevent people from speaking up their own rights. And because that she also gives them to her DOP soldiers and that they can do it as well. And to me personally, she's an interesting villain. Not one of the best in general, but because of those reasons alone, the fact that her backstory is really, really interesting, she is a pretty interesting villain. Again, not one of the best in general, not one of the best video game villains in general, but I will say a very threatening villain with an interesting backstory. However, though, there are the other three on the other hand, Hank, Eugene, and Fetch. While they also too have interesting backstories, as well, they're not as good as the other three, and there's a reason for that. The reason specifically for that is that they are barely in the game's story at all. Even after you meet them, where it's pretty much the majority of the time they appear, they don't appear anywhere else after that. They don't appear again until near the end of this game's story. And I figured that's a big, huge issue. Now, don't get me wrong, though, they are still memorable characters, and just like Augustine, they do have interesting backstories about their origins of how they became a conduit or bioterrorist. But the problem, though, however, is because that they don't appear that lot in this game compared to Augustine and the other three, it just does kind of make it just does make them feel like as if they're only there just for the sake of, just to support the main character. Or the same thing can be said about Betty. Betty is only at the beginning of the story, and doesn't appear again until after you beat the story of the game. Even though she does support on Delson, depending if you do the evil, the good karma side of the story. And again, Eugene, Fetch, and Hank are not bad characters. They are interesting and do have a reason to be in the story. It's just that when compared to the other three, they don't make a lot of appearances except for when you first meet them or until the end of the game. Now, for gameplay wise. For the gameplay, I will say that the gameplay is extremely fun, depending on what side you pick, though. To me personally, if you want to have the most fun, the best one is to go with the evil side of the story. Because with the evil side, you can pretty much do whatever the heck you want. You could just kill your DPs all you want. You can kill civilians and just have so much fun with the gameplay at the same time. time, especially since the game is like a third-person shooter type of game, where you have to aim with the powers and stuff. It actually does, in fact, feel like as if you're playing a third-person shooter game, but in a superhero game. And just to let you know, this is a sandbox. Oh, wrong side. Oh, fuck. This is an open world game with a superhero stuff. And well, though, yes, the whole open world thing has already been done a lot, like with Grand Theft Auto, Saints Row series, or any of those games. This game is one of the only few that features that's a superhero type of open world game. And to me personally, I actually think that this game does take full advantage of that, because you're exploring the city of Seattle. Well, because of the amount of detail in the city, you can pretty much just look around and search for several secrets. You got shards to collect, which pretty much upgrade some of your powers, and depending on what karma you can pick some new powers, even though most of them are similar. Well, a lot of them are really, really interesting powers, and most of them are pretty much upgrades to the original, which makes it a whole lot easier to fight enemies as the more you upgrade. And since the game does actually get harder as you progress through the story, it really is necessary to get as much shards as you can while grinding through the game, just so you can upgrade and pretty much get some new powers along the way. Well, you need the core base to actually get new powers, but after that, you pretty much just upgrade them to make them super strong. You also got side missions along the game, which honestly though, if there's one thing I have to complain about this gameplay besides some of the glitches that are in the game, I will say that the side missions is pretty much a bit repetitive. They are fun to do for the first few times. After that several times, you pretty much get tired of the same ones. But because there's only a few different ones. They have one where basically you have to find a hidden DUP agent that's hiding among the crowd. You got some where you get a spray can. By the way, because of this thing uses motion controls on the PlayStation 4, you have to hold it like you can, and just shake it. And okay, that just looked a bit weird. Never mind. Anyway, now let me get a drink first. And so like I said. And then there's also some where basically you have to find an audio track that actually is another major connection to the main story of the game. And even though some of them are a bit hard though, this game does introduce several different types of side missions that really have not been done a lot in previous games. But like most side missions, the first few times they're fun, but they do get repetitive after a bit. And honestly, this is one of my complaints about open world games a lot, is that true? Yes, there's a lot of replay value, and there really is quite a lot. I mean, trust me. If you decide to beat the main campaign and that stuff, the main campaign and that, depending on what side you go for, can take you pretty much 6 to 8.5 hours. Or if you decide to try to complete both sides, it could take you over 15 hours. Well, pretty much over 12 to over 15 hours of gameplay. Plus the amount of replay value throughout most of the game, and the amount of shards that are everywhere to collect to upgrade your powers. This can take you over 30 hours pretty much at the most from what I experienced, and to me, that is a lot of gameplay for an open world game, and definitely quite a lot in today's modern era of games, where most of them are super long in terms of story mode, and then replay value pretty much keeps you occupied for a much longer time. But, like I said though before, the problem with open world games that I've always had is that, while yes, some of the side missions are pretty different than that has been done before, and the fact that they can be good the first few times, but after that, you pretty much start to get a bit boring. But if you really want to beat the game 100%, like I said, this game could take you several hours. It could take you over 20, if not, maybe depending on how long it takes you, can take you over 30 hours to beat the game 100%. And that is a lot of replay value. Oh, and that really does keep you occupied throughout the game. So, and then you also have, and for the controls wise, you also got, this game also uses several ways to use the touchpad. You can basically swipe it, or whatever, to do stuff like maybe save people from a cage, from DUPs or something. And you also use right trigger to aim and right analog stick in it. It's pretty much very simple controls, and each power uses the same button, just has a different side effect. However though, I have one major complaint though about the gameplay, that besides some of the side missions gets repetitive after a bit of while, like most open world games, The biggest problem I personally have with the game is the camera of the game. Now, I'm not saying the camera is terrible. It is completely fine when you're running around Seattle and stuff. But my biggest complaint, though, about this camera is that it sucks ass during the combat scenes. Actually, I mean, if you're in an open world, if you're in a much bigger open space spot, it's not that bad. But when there's several things too close to you and you try to zoom in or shoot stuff, the camera will get in front of like a gate or something, and you can't even see shit of what's going on. Like, let's say for example, okay, here's a couple guys coming, okay, and okay, gotta shoot shit, and then all of a sudden the camera puts you right in front of a wall. It's like, what the fuck? I can't see shit, and then all of a sudden you die because of that reason. And all of a sudden you completely die from that. It's like, what the fuck? I died because I couldn't see shit at all. So, and that is the biggest complaint I have with the gameplay. The camera during the combat scenes, a lot of the times, is complete ass. Throughout most of the gameplay. And I felt that they could have maybe done a bit better with the camera. But then again though, this is one of the first few PlayStation 4 exclusive games being released, made by a Sony-owned studio. So, I guess once if Sucker Punch does decide to make a new game later on, during the console's lifespan, and if it's anything similar to this though, I do hope they improve the camera in this game. Yeah, but overall, gameplay's good. It's just be aware of the camera, because the camera a lot of times during the combat is complete ass, just to let you know. But overall, well, what do I think of Infamous Second Son overall? I will definitely say this. Not only is this one of the best looking game on the PlayStation 4, this game is easily the best game on the PlayStation 4 so far, easily. Infamous Second Son, while despite the fact it has a couple glitches, and the fact that the camera a lot of times during the combat is complete ass, and the fact that some characters don't appear a lot in the story, but it easily makes up for that with a really good story that completely changes depending on what side you decide to go with. A memorable cast of characters, great voice acting, some of the most amazing graphics with some of the best visuals of any game you'll ever play, and extremely fun gameplay. With a massive amount of replay value. This game, in my opinion, is a must-buy for anyone who's a fan of open world games, superhero games, or heck, even if you're a fan of Infamous or not, you should give this game a try, because this game is really outstanding and a ton of fun to play. Despite the fact that some simulations can get repetitive, it is extremely fun to play and really can keep you entertained for hours on end. And like I said, the memorable voice acting, characters, and story really can keep you entertained of what's going on. So overall, I give Infamous Second Son a 9 out of 10. That's right. I give Infamous Second Son a 9 out of 10. It's a must-buy game if you own a PlayStation 4, and if you plan on buying a PlayStation 4, you definitely should consider getting this game. And like I said, despite some of the big issues that the game does have, I definitely really loved the game a lot. It's great, and definitely is good. So that is it for the review. Infamous Second Son, again, gets a 9 out of 10. One of my favorite games this year, and really, I was really glad I bought. And I'll be honest, I was going to wait until Kingdom Hearts 2 was going to have official release date. I could buy on PlayStation 4, since I know it's going to be the strongest system that can support what the game to do. But honestly, now that I got the PlayStation 4 early, I'm glad I got it for this game, because if I really did not buy a PlayStation 4, I would have had to wait until maybe another year or so before I get it. And I'm glad I got a PlayStation 4 early for this game, and this game is really awesome. So I just want to say is really good job, Sucker Punch, for offering us a really good quality title, and really good. If you do actually watch this, Sucker Punch, I hope to God, if you make another game like this, please try to improve the camera a little bit better, because like I said, the combat can be ass a lot of times during the combat scenes. But like I said, a 9 out of 10, one of my favorite games this year, and in my opinion, definitely a Game of the Year contender for me. So thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you guys next time for the next review of whatever other game comes out next, so see you later.